Welcome to NCIX Tech Tips. Today we're going to be having a look at the next generation of Intel gaming notebooks. So we had a look at a recent MSI model that was pretty cool. Now we have an upgraded, in many ways, replacement model. And I'm going to tell you all the different ways that it is higher end. So first is a quick list. The CPU is faster. There's more RAM. The screen is bigger. The keyboard is better. There's more storage. The GPU is faster. Yeah, that's pretty much enough to call it an upgrade, don't you think, at this point? So let's start by looking at the physical attributes of the GT780R to start with. Okay, on the side, you're going to find all of your typical inputs and outputs except for a couple things. Look at this. We have dedicated 5.1 audio jacks. This is something I love to see on a gaming notebook because it means if you're plugging into your main desk at home, you can actually plug in all of your surround sound jacks, whereas if you're going to a LAN, you can just use the ones that you need. You've got USB, two USB 3.0 ports, SD, a huge exhaust vent. This is pretty typical for your gaming notebooks because they do have a fair amount of heat to kick out. If you move around to the front, you can see pretty typical stuff here. We've got activity LEDs for Bluetooth, LAN, battery, sleep, and the hard drive itself. Otherwise, not much going on the front, and we're having a little problem with camera focusing there. There we go. Much better, guys. Sorry about that. All right, and finally on the other side, we've got the optical drive as well as two more USB 2 ports. On the back, you can see we've got an HDMI output, which we are currently using to output to our Samsung TV behind me. We've got eSATA, just in case you have an older fast external hard drive that does not support USB 3. VGA out, I still like to see this along with HDMI just because there are so many projectors, for example. If you need to use it somewhere like, say, I ran into a problem at a wedding. I had to use a notebook to output to a projector. They had an old projector. I had no VGA. Big problem. Okay, we've got gigabit Ethernet, power in, as well as a Kensington lock, and yet another huge exhaust port because the Intel Core i7-2630QM, that is a quad-core CPU, and the NVIDIA GTX 560M, between the two of them, they are going to be kicking out a fair amount of heat. Now, some of the other features that we have seen before is support for dual hard drives. So I don't know if you guys pay attention to my video blog, but I've actually upgraded my GX660R to an SSD and then a single hard drive for storage. Now, this one comes with two 500 gig drives, but you can also reconfigure that. So you could add an SSD for an SSD boot drive and leave one of those 500 gigs for storage. And I would consider that a very optimal configuration for a gaming notebook. It also has 16 gigs of RAM. This is an exclusive MSI thing where they actually support up to 4 DIMMs. So that's four 4-gig DIMMs in this particular notebook. Dyne Audio is another cool thing. I don't know about you guys, but I am pretty sick and tired of subpar audio on expensive notebooks. So their Dyne Audio solution basically allows them to say without any doubt that the sound provided by their notebooks is better than what you would see as an industry standard. Another cool thing, you can turn your touchpad off with the click of a button. This is neat because the touchpad is close to the WASD keys. If you're actually going to use this for gaming, you know, because it's a gaming notebook, that's pretty handy because that way you're not going to be brushing your touchpad every time you try to, well, play a game. Press the WASD keys. So that's a pretty neat thing as well. The last thing that I think is very cool, and this is the first time I've seen this on a gaming notebook, is the included SteelSeries keyboard. So what this is it's a very responsive, very excellent tactile experience, but the software is what really blows me away more than anything else. Check this out. So you can not only have backlit keys, but there are actually a variety of different modes. So you can select any number of, here, let's go in standard mode, normal mode, and we're going to select white for all 3 zones. So now I can change zone by zone. There are 3 different zones on the keyboard, which colors I want it to display. And there you can see the whole thing is changed to white. Now let's say I want purple, and I have a wide variety of different colors that I can select. Now I'm going to show you guys the different modes, because I think this is one of the neatest features that this notebook has to offer. There you go. So now you can see the keyboard has changed to purple. There is also gaming mode. Gaming mode, by default, only lights up the far left side of the keyboard because everything else is inconsequential when you're in that gaming zone. There's breathing mode, which I have the color set to purple right now, so you can see what it'll do is it'll pulsate as if it's breathing. Pretty cool as well. We've seen that on the SteelSeries WoW mouse in the past. There's the wave, so if you are a fan, then you'll know what the wave is. There you go. So you can see it lights up one zone at a time, moving across the keyboard. And finally, there is dual color, where it'll take two colors and alternate between them, kind of like breathing mode. But instead of going lights on, lights off, it'll go one color, then the other color. So as we so often see, laptop graphics are not quite up to the same level as their desktop counterparts. However, even at 1920 by 1080, so that's full 1080p resolution, I'm just going to skedaddle, get down this pathway here. The built-in GeForce GTX 560M is fully capable of running Call of Duty Black Ops at full quality. So I'm just going to show you guys really quickly the settings that I do have running here. So we're using 4x anti-aliasing. Texture filtering I don't have set to anisotropic, but this game doesn't really support it anyway. So everything here is pretty much set to as high as it goes. And while it's not really suitable for the most intensive games out there, you're not going to be running Crysis at 2560 by 1600 on an external monitor, for example. It is more than enough for most mainstream popular games, and it comes in a form factor that obviously you cannot achieve with a desktop. So thank you for checking out this episode of NCIX Tech Tips. Don't forget to subscribe.